pull up the right stuff here. So it is 10 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. I would ask that everybody to mute their microphones and only turn them on when they speak. I would also like to remind everybody, when you do turn on your microphones to speak, please start with your name so it is on our record that who's making a motion, who's seconding that motion, or who's making the comment. So by putting your name out there first, we know exactly who's going to be discussing what or who's speaking. Okay. The other thing I will do is I'm going to ask everybody to mute your cell phones. That way they don't start ringing while you're, knowing my luck, I'll actually have my my mic turned on speaking and my phone will start ringing. So I would remind everybody to turn their phone calls or turn their cell phones on silent. And with that, I'm going to ask Mr. Alex Ortiz to call roll for us, and let's get a certification of a quorum.
All right.
Alex?
Thank you, Mr. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Trout. Okay. Palmer Dent,
Present.
George Crawford,
Present.
Alan Kripe,
Present.
Kyle Stell,
Present.
Bill Quisenberry,
Present.
Brian Allen,
Present.
Timothy McNulty, and Presiding Officer Rob Trout.
Present.
Okay, Mr. Trout, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. So that brings us to approval of the minutes of the August 31st, 2024 meeting. Everybody should have received the minutes of August 21st, 2024 and the meeting materials. At this time, I would ask if anybody has any comments regarding those minutes. Seeing no hands raised, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from August 21st, 2024.
Alan Kripe, so moved.
Do we have a
Oh.
second?
Brian Mullins, second.
Okay, since we didn't have any comments or questions about the minutes, I'm going to go ahead and ask Alex to call for a vote. And just FYI, since we are doing this via the web, all of our votes will be done by Alex calling out the individual person and asking for what their vote is. So, Alex, I'll turn it over for you to call the vote, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right. Palmer Dent,
Aye.
George Crawford,
Aye.
Alan Kripe,
Aye.
Kyle Stell,
Aye.
Bill Quisenberry,
Aye.
Brian Allen,
Aye.
and the vote passes.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, so that brings us to public comments. So we did not receive any requests for anybody to address the board. So that's going to move us straight into item E, which is staff reports. So briefing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call in on each division to give us an update. The first division is licensing division, and I'm going to ask Mary Hall to introduce yourself and start the update for the licensing division. Mary?
Good morning, board members. My name is Mary Hoffman, and I am the fairly new licensing manager over the boilers program. I have been with the boiler team since October of 24. But I've been with TDLR for close to 9 years, previously in the compliance division. So I wanted to provide a couple of updates really quickly. I wanted to introduce myself, but also share some exciting news about some improvements that we're making to the boiler program. Licensing and Chief Trout have been working really closely together on trying to make some improvements to the program. And one of those improvements are creating a search function for AIAs to be able to look at their inspectors and look at their current license renewal, their current license expiration statuses. So on the website, you're going to be able to click a link and go to a search function, type in, or not, you can type in or select from the drop-down box the name of the AIA. And when you click on that AIA, it's going to pull up all of the inspectors that are listed under that AIA. And then you will see their expiration date and status of renewal. In addition to that, we are also working on creating a renewal form for Texas commissions that will be a blank form that's available on the website. So inspectors and AIAs can download that form as needed and get that completed and send that into the office for renewal and not have to wait for the renewal to be sent to you. If it's lost in the mail, you're going to be able to access that document at any time and get that to us timely. So we will go into more detail about these improvements and others that we're making in the program at the next seminar that is currently at the AIA seminar that is currently in the process of being scheduled for the September timeframe. I should be providing a presentation at that seminar that goes into more detail, and I can take some questions as well at that time. In the next newsletter, on the level newsletter, you should find some updates as well regarding the improvements that we're making. So I just, again, wanted to say hello, introduce myself. I am excited to work with your team and your program. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. You know how to get a hold of Rob. Rob can forward you my information if you ever have any questions, or I can assist you all with anything. Other than that, I was going to send it over to my team lead, Tiffany Red, that some of you may know. I don't know if she is on. She was having some technical difficulties. Tiffany, are you on?
Yes, can you all hear me okay?
Oh, yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Okay, I apologize. I'm having some issues with the camera here, but I am here. Good morning again. I'm Tiffany Red. I'm the team lead in licensing for this program. It looks like it may be kicking on now. Oh, there we go. The licensing statistics were provided to you showing the number of new and renewed licenses for fiscal year 2024 and fiscal year 2025 through April. As shown in the report, as of April 30th, the authorized inspection agencies population was 21, and the inspectors population was 242. That concludes my report. We'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have.
This is Brian Mullen. Just a question on the total population of inspectors being 248. Out of those total inspectors, how many are actual active inspectors or performed an inspection in the state of Texas? Is there a way to look that up? I would just love to know what that number is.
All we are able to do is that is a number that's pulled out of our system. If the license is active, that's all we're tracking is a current license, not if they're actually out and performing inspections. We don't track that information.
Okay. I was just thinking it'd be interesting so we could figure out actually how many inspectors are actually inspecting the state of Texas, state guys and AIs.
Mr. Mullen, let me help out with this one a little bit if I could. So as you know, we have two different types of commissions. We have the ASME commission and we have the in-service commission. So that population of 248, that includes both commissions. So we have no idea there's no way for us to track to see which inspector is actually coming into Texas and doing work. So as you know, inspection agencies will bring inspectors from, say, I'm just going to use an example, is an inspector doing inspections here in Texas may do those inspections in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, Kansas, and they spread out. So whether or not that inspector is actively doing in-service inspections in Texas, the only way for us to be able to look at that is to determine is running a report in Jurisdiction Online. The other problem with that is a lot of those inspectors are authorized inspection agencies that work for an inspection agency like what Trade Dent does, which is the ASME side. So we have two different variables here. One of them is one group is doing only ASME inspections during the fabrication portion of their of the boiler or pressure vessel, with the other half doing actual boiler and service inspections. And then out of those ones that do the in-service inspections, some of them are just backups that reside out of state. So there's really no way for the licensing program to be able to track those variables because they're not directly related to JO or the AIAs that are doing the ASME side. So we really can't figure that out.
Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, you're welcome. Any other questions? Hearing none. Tiffany, thank you for your update. We will move on to item E2 now, which is the Education and Examination Division. And I would like to call on I'm sorry, I'm having problems pronouncing words. Vito, is that correct?
Thank you,
Ari?
Mr. Trout. Yes, this is Ari Acevedo, and I am representing the Education and Examination Division today. Good morning, board members. So what we have before you are the examination statistics through April of this year. You can see fiscal year 2024 below and fiscal year 2025 above. And I do want to call some attention to fiscal year 2024. Oh, it's not appearing on screen. But I just want to let you know that fiscal year 2024's, for some reason or another, when this report was put together for this meeting, the numbers for quarter 4 did not generate. So I'm going to update you on what those were in fiscal year 2024. Quarter 4's totals. There were a total of 13 candidates who tested. 4 of them passed, 9 of them did not pass, which brought the pass rate for 2024 to around 50%. 50% was the pass rate for fiscal year 2024. And we are happy to provide those corrected numbers to you after this meeting upon request. And I'll go ahead and let you check out fiscal year 2025.
Are there any questions?
I have a question. It's more, this is Alan Kripe. It's more anecdotal, but the examinations, is this a standardized examination that is, who writes the questions for these examinations is what I'm wondering.
The subject matter experts. A lot of the subject matter experts are advisory board members.
So I can elaborate on those. So if the Texas Commission, it used to be actually given by the boiler program. And when we talk about the Texas Commission that actually requires a exam, that is for the in-service commission only. If you're dealing with the ASME Commission, Texas Commission, that is issued automatically to an inspector who has the National Board Authorized Inspector Commission, which those two parallel. And those are only for inspections that are being done during the fabrication process of vessels being fabricated in accordance with the ASME. So ASME requires a third-party inspection agency to verify code compliance. That's one of the criteria of ASME for a manufacturer to put that certification mark on the vessel. So that brings us down to the in-service inspectors are the only ones that's required to take that commission exam. And the way that we did that in the past is the boiler program team leads, chief inspector wrote the exam questions. I would say it was probably around 2015. TDLR went into a contract with a contractor by the name of PSI, and they basically took all of our questions, and then we convened a group of subject matter experts to meet with PSI to review those questions and evaluate the questions on their applicability, on if too many people are filling them. There's a whole bunch of stuff, information that I'm sure Eric can fill us in on that has to be considered when writing these questions. But all that is overseen by our contractor who proctors the exam, which is PSI.
Thanks, Chief. Alan Kripe again, last question, then we can move on. Is there a threshold that triggers a reevaluation of those questions, i.e. excessive failure rate?
Yes, sir, there is. PSI reaches out to the Education Examination Division, and we set that up. We try to get together every year, but as you can see, there's not really a lot of people that take the test. So it very well may be we only have 24 people take the test for the entire year. There's just there's not a lot of call for a new commission at this point. I will tell you that of those people that took the test, 3 of them were mine because I had hired them because I've started having a higher turnover rate over the last year. So I'm sure PSI will reach out to me probably before the end of the year to ask for us to be able to go over the results and to convene that task group to see if there is a need to remove some of the questions, change up some of the questions, and go through that process for verification of quality questions and making sure we're not confusing the applicants or anything like that.
Are there any other questions for the Education and Examination Division members?
Hearing none, I'll go ahead and move forward. Thank you very much, Ari.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving forward, that puts us at item 3E, Customer Service Division. I'm going to call on Emily Howe.
Good morning, advisory board members. My name is Emily Howe. I'm a quality analyst for customer service, filling in for manager Patricia Martinez Castellon, and I'm presenting our statistics for the boilers program today. So our report will show you a breakdown of calls and email contacts received between fiscal year 2024 and 2025. Overall, contact quantity remains consistent, and we're not currently noticing any alarming trends. Please let us know if you have any questions.
Are there any questions for Emily from the board members? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move over to the Enforcement Division. So I would ask Jessica Hurtado. Did I pronounce that right, Jessica?
Good morning, board members. My name is Jessica Hurtado, and I'm a senior prosecutor for the Enforcement Division. And I will be presenting the report for you today. At the very top, you have the division's performance measures, which are reported to the legislature. These statistics are for September 1st through the month of April for both fiscal years 2024 and 2025. In good news, the average time for closing complaints has decreased from fiscal year 2024 to fiscal year 2025. The next section is the criminal history review for applicants who may have disqualifying criminal history, and these cases are handled by our criminal history team. The next section details where the Enforcement Division's complaints come from and whether they are from consumers or from within the agency. The top of the next page puts this into a pie graph for you. And you may notice the pie graph shows 4 departmental cases were opened in fiscal year 2025 versus the preceding chart saying there were 5 consumer cases. This is because there's a difference between a complaint that's received and whether that complaint is actually opened as an enforcement case because it met our minimum jurisdictional requirements. And so far in fiscal year 2025, we have managed to close more cases than we have opened. The orders issued are the end of the road for the disciplinary action, and you can see we have not had any final orders in the boiler program so far this fiscal year. On the top of page 3, the case is closed without disciplinary action. You can see that 5 cases were closed with the issuance of a warning letter. And the next section details the alleged violations in opening. These are the reasons the case was opened at the beginning, and the very last section details the violations which resulted in disciplinary action. That's the type of cases where we took a final action on. And finally, there are 2 case highlights included in the materials for your review, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Does the board members have any questions for Jessica? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item E5, Compliance Division. And I'd ask the Boiler Program Supervisor, Keith Sanford, to give us an update. Keith?
Good morning. Keith Sanford, Boiler Program Supervisor. Good morning, members. Current projects, we have 3 new inspectors that have passed their state exams that are in their areas inspecting boilers. Of those, 2 have passed their National Board and Service Commission, and the other has taken his test, and we're waiting for results back on that. We have 3 new boiler inspector trainees. All 3 are in the training program, the MB380. One is slated to take his in-state service commission test, I believe, at the end of this month. So hopefully we'll be able to turn 1 more loose. That because currently between those 3 in training, and we have 1 open position that is causing our overdues, and that's the next part. I showed the overdues that we listed on there. The current overdues is 625, is effective of Monday, with 898 of those being assigned to, of 898 assigned to AIAs, all of them together, like a total of 1513. The way we've decided to try to combat this overdues is we've reassigning the 2 team leads, one from Houston, one from Dallas, to go out and do overdue inspections in the overdue areas of the ones that the 3 new trainees and the one that's vacant, to go into those areas and help bring them down. And then we're going to reassign them, and they're going to do joint reviews, and then the chief inspector and myself will do the joint reviews for until hopefully we can get this caught up. There was some legislative updates that we had 2 bills that went through. One covers the exemption of certain size. Their small medical boilers are used in autoclaves anyway, in medical equipment. Those are going to be exempt starting September 1st. The other one removed the 5-member minimum on the board for votes. You have to have a quorum of 6, so that kind of just, it brings us in line with the way TDLR is doing advisory boards. And the other removed the executive director as ex officio member also. And those take effect September 1st. Is there any questions on that I might be able to answer?
Is there going to be any training on this new rules for medical boilers? Is there? This is Brian Mullen, by the way. Is there like a BTU or a KW set point?
So,
Well,
I,
okay, go
I
ahead, Tom.
I can answer that one, Keith. So right now, we're expecting the governor to sign the bill. That bill has not been signed yet, but we are expecting the governor to assign it. This is something that we are planning on going into more detail at the AIA seminar, which is being scheduled for September. Right now, a couple of things that I have planned for that is when we have that AIA seminar, National Board's going to come down and do a overview of the MBIC, the changes for the 2025 edition of the MBIC, all 4 parts. And we're also going to be talking about the new laws that come into play and what all's required. Basically, Brian, the outcome of this is it's just exempting miniature portable or miniature electric boilers that are installed in autoclaves that are regulated by the FDA. And that's all it did. So basically those autoclaves in the surgery centers and the hospitals, they're no longer going to be inspected. And we're in the process of going through JO to remove all the autoclaves that we see in there and put them as exempt.
Roger that. Is if it's not physically attached to the autoclave, is it still going to be exempt?
Yes. Oh, I take that back. No. If the boiler is not included into the autoclave, then the boiler itself is exempt. So, or I'm sorry, the boiler itself is not exempt. Basically, okay. The way the bill reads, it's integral boilers to a autoclave, which is regulated by the FDA for medical utensils, for sterilization of medical utensils. So, and I'll go into a lot more detail on that AIA seminar.
Roger that.
Are there any other questions for Keith?
This is Alan Kripe. I had one question, Keith, and you had mentioned the measures you guys are doing going forward to try to catch up with the overdue inspections, which is the overwhelming number of violations. So would you attribute that to anything out of the ordinary, or is this due to the turnover that Chief mentioned at the beginning of the meeting? Combination, is there any one particular thing that we could be addressing that we aren't already doing so to help out in that area?
Well, turnover is a big deal of it, because all our areas that have the most are because of their the turnover. We could probably keep up with this, but we're coming down to crunch time on another rule that goes into play in December. So we're getting a lot of extra overdue boilers placed out of Texas pending on us.
So the other thing I will add to that is not only and I actually got this approval last week. So I had requested overtime for some of my inspectors who volunteered to go into these unassigned areas. I've requested overtime for them, and the executive director got that request. It made it through all the processes and procedures that we have to follow, and the executive director approved that. I think it was approved like Monday, either yesterday or last Friday. And I also want to give an update. I got notified that SB 1185, so Senate Bill 1185, has been signed by the governor. I believe that is the bill that exempted the autoclaves.
Yes,
and
it is.
SB 719, or I'm sorry, Senate Bill 917 has not yet been assigned by the executive director. And that's the one, that bill changed the reporting period that an AIA has to submit their inspection report to the agency. From 30 days, it reduced it to 10 days, as well as removing the executive director of TDLR as an ex officio of the boiler board, meaning that she would actually have a vote if she decided to vote. So since that was removed, TDLR has no voting power on this board, and we have reduced the time allotted for an inspection agency to submit a inspection report from 30 days to 10 days. Any other questions? Mr. Kripe, did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just to also to give clear information, Mr. Malin, here's what it says: boilers that are components of a medical device regulated by the United States Food and Drug Administration and are of a size that does not exceed an inside diameter shell of 16 inches, 20 square feet of heating surface, unless the boiler is electric, 5 cubic feet of gross volume, excluding the casing and insulation, and allowable working pressure of 100 pounds per square inch gauge, or an unfired pressure vessel in the autoclave. And that's what the Senate bill actually lists. And that is an exemption that's being added to 755, I think it's 023 paragraph. And that's the listing of exemptions. Does that answer everybody's question?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any additional questions? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the item E6, which is Executive Office Update. And I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Executive Director Steve Bruno. Steve?
Thank you, Chief Trout. It's wonderful to be with you all and with the rest of the board this morning. I'm Steve Bruno, Deputy Executive Director of Licensing Services here at TDLR. Just wanted to give a brief report. Thank you, Keith. You hit on the legislative side the important 2 bills in boilers. Otherwise, just a little bit broader, we had a very successful session at TDLR. And once again, we're returning from a session where we will have some more duties. We've been assigned a new regulatory program, and this is the regulatory program over those who sell solar panels. You may have read stories over the past several years in the papers and seen things on the news about, especially elderly folks who have been getting ripped off, been signing contracts, been being made promises about lower electric bills and the installation costs, and it turns out those things are not true. So the legislature took some action, and TDLR will now be regulating those who install solar panels. The other large responsibility that was shifted to us is that we were given the responsibilities for the Lottery Commission and bingo, charitable bingo. You may have read about those as well in the news lately. And what the legislature did was dissolve those former agencies and assign those duties to TDLR. So we will have a lot going on and a lot of bill implementation, in addition to the implementation of the bills that you all heard about that are impacting your program. But other than that, I just wanted to give that brief update. Oh, I did want to say, I hope this isn't a repeat, but in the executive office, we have Susanna Holt-Crutrone, who joined about 9 months ago. And I don't think you all have met since then. Susanna is our Deputy Director of Regulatory Services, and we're very excited to have her on board. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions or comments I can assist with, Rob.
Okay. Do any of our members have any questions for Mr. Bruno? Hearing none. Thank you, Bruno. Appreciate you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And that will take us to item F on our agenda, which is the discussion for possible recommendations of proposed rules or amendments to the rules. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our General Counsel, Mr. Laura Pfefferly. Laura?
Good morning. My name's Laura Pefferly. I'm with the Office of General Counsel. Before we get started on the rule item, if anybody would like to take a break, we can certainly take 5 for a break. So speak up if you'd like to. If not, we'll continue. Okay, looks like we're good. I'll just kind of give you a little bit of an orientation here of where we are. We just recently adopted rules that made various changes, some to blow down, some the late inspection fee, and some of those changes haven't actually become applicable yet to boiler owners and inspectors. These rules are going to modify some of the rules that are already adopted, just aren't effective yet, mainly on the late inspection fee and the boiler blowdown. But I'm going to walk you through them, but I thought I'd just kind of orient you that we are at the stage where these rules will be going to publication for proposal. So that's what we're here today to do, is to look at them, consider whether there's any changes that need to be made, and then send them to proposal, which means they'll be published in the Texas Register, and then there'll be the 30-day comment period. And then we meet again and we talk about the comments that have come in, and we make any other changes that are necessary, corrections, changes, whatever needs to be done before we send them on to the commission. And at that next meeting, after we talk about the comments that have come in from the comment period, then you'd make a recommendation to adopt them, and then they go to the commission. So we have a few opportunities for public input on the rules before they're actually adopted. Right now, we can do any tweaks that are necessary to propose them. After the comment period is typically when we will add any corrections or changes that come up during the comment period. But there's still opportunity for public input at the commission meeting itself, where the commission looks at them for adopting them. So, you know, we have this process, and there's lots of opportunity for input. The status of the rule package right now is that we typically will send it to the governor's office for their approval before this meeting. Because of the time deadlines for getting the rules effective, we had to go ahead and send the package to the governor's office. So what you're looking at is what the governor's office is actually reviewing now. And we're hoping to hear back soon, because we're trying to stay on our schedule to get these adopted and effective. So if you have changes today, and they're not like critical to be made for the proposal, say there's a correction in a date or something like that, if it can wait until after the comment period, we can do it then, and just publish them as the governor has approved them. The governor's office may make tweaks itself. If they're significant enough, then of course the board has to look at that and approve them again, typically. But in this case, we're kind of in the position where we're going to ask you that if the governor's office has some sort of changes, that you'll be agreeable to us going ahead and making those for proposal. And part of the reason that is really not a big risk is that if the governor's office would make any tweaks or anything that you really weren't happy about, you'd see them in proposal, and you could comment on those, and we could still make changes at after the comment period before they're adopted. So there's not a high risk for just kind of letting them go through if the governor's office approves them as is today, and then you know, fixing anything at adoption at the end of the comment period when we do any final changes. But like I said, we don't have the package back from the governor's office, and odds are they're not going to change anything. Sometimes they'll have some minor grammatical type fixes, but we wouldn't bother to bring y'all back together to approve those, because they wouldn't be anything you'd be worried about. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. We're at the point where you're going to look at the rules today. You've got them in your package. You've gotten the materials. We don't have any commenters today, so the next comments we'll get is after these are published, and that's that's when we'll go forward with the process to get them adopted. Like I said, the main thing today is to do the recommendation to publish. So let me pull up the rules and we'll just walk through them. Okay, can you all see the rules?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I've got them as big as I can make them on my screen, so I hope you can see them all right. And so we're going to start one of the main changes in this proposal is to add the overdue drop fee. And we're going to be talking about the drop fee and the late inspection fees, and no one has to pay any of these if they get the inspection done on time. So they're what you might call optional or non-mandatory. You only pay them if you don't get the inspection done. The overdue drop fee is going to be a one-time fee that the AIA gets if they don't get the inspection done and drop the boiler from coverage after the certificate has expired, which, there's one or two reasons why you wouldn't get it, which mainly is that, the owner doesn't let you do the inspection or drops you. So the drop fee is going to be, it's there as a deterrent, and you don't need to pay it if you get the inspection done on time. So that's adding a definition for that drop fee. And then we've added that into the section where the late inspection fees are, because it all kind of works together. That's just all the definitions. And then we get down to, I'll go through these in order. The next section is going to be on the late inspection fees. This section has a little bit of a change here, but this is kind of to reflect the change in the way the paperwork is going to be handled for the inspector commission renewals. We used to currently send out a whole batch of those all at once, and everybody's got to race to get them back. Now it's going to be where you can just go on the website and download the application and send it in when you're ready to do that. And we're saying, don't send it too early, don't send it too late either. Give us time to process it, but that helps avoid that flood of applications all at once. So it's going to be online. We didn't include that actually in the rule text that it's going to be online because that's, we're letting you know, but this rule is saying, try to get it in within this window of time so that it can get processed. And that's the main change. And it's saying when you're clarifying when you're going to get a late renewal fee if you don't send it in timely, which is, getting it in the mail to us, getting it delivered to us so that we can, process it before it's before your commission expires. So here we get to the late inspection fee and the drop fee. Not all of this section has changed, and actually we took out this 3, 4, and 5 and put them down below. So, those aren't wiped out. They're just moved around, but that's how we have to show them. And this is the kind of the revamped section here. The late inspection fee, the AIA and the owner get the late inspection fee because they're both responsible for getting the inspection done. Nothing new there. And like I said, we did already adopt the late inspection fee, and this really today is only doing one additional tweak on the late inspection fee and adding the overdue drop fee, which wasn't in there before. So this is adding the drop fee for, which is to deter the inspection agency from dropping the coverage when the boiler's already overdue for the inspection. And So you're looking at the overdue drop fee, and then the late inspections fee is still there. 2 says the AIA has to pay the drop fee in addition to the late inspection fee. If you were already subject to that, you're going to get that drop fee in addition to the late inspection fee if you've already started incurring that. And that's the daily fee that just it goes up every 30 days as a impetus to get you to get the inspection done. It increases over time up to 90 days, and then after 90 days, it stays at the same rate indefinitely. And so those are your, this here is your exceptions for if you don't get the inspection done, the owner operator terminates you, or you can't get in there. They won't let you in to do the inspection. And then here we get to the part about if you take on a boiler that's already overdue for its inspection, the AIA before you dropped it, or whatever happened, you take on a boiler that's already late. It's not fair to you to have to pay the late fee for that boiler, but you do have to get busy and get the inspection done. So this is saying schedule it within 60 days, do it within 90 days. If you don't get it done within 90 days, which is a pretty long time to get it done, then you're going to start getting a late inspection fee on your own part until you get the inspection done. And so we felt like this is fair. It gives you plenty of time. We talked to some AIAs and it seems reasonable. And again, it's not a mandatory fee. If you just get the inspection done, you're not going to have to worry about any of these fees. And so let's see. This is all, we're just kind of tweaking that section to add that overdue drop fee and that late inspection fee for, if you don't get the inspection done quickly after you take over a late boiler. But that's all the changes you're really looking at there. And then we get into some of the other changes. One is we're just laying out the when you have to inspect and send an installation report for a portable boiler. And so it's basically you need to get it inspected and send us a report when you install it the first time, but you don't have to keep doing that over and over every time you move it. And so this is laying that out, saying you can get a temporary operating permit if you need it. And so this just kind of documents sort of what we've been doing all along, but it hadn't been put into the rules for some reason. So so this just lays out what you need to do when you're dealing with a portable boiler and moving that around. The fee section, we just added this overdue drop fee. And then also this is one of the other larger changes, but it doesn't apply to everyone all the time. The special inspection or non-standard boiler review fee is going up $300 from $1,700 to $2,000, just because everything's going up, and so do our costs, and so that's just kind of a price adjustment on the fee for those services, and that, of course, that only applies to whoever is needing those services.
Laura, I want to make sure the board members understand a special inspection fee. That is the joint reviews that we do. So that is what the boiler law and rules calls a special inspection fee, is actually the joint review fee. So this is a audit of companies that are building boilers and pressure vessels in accordance with the ASME code of construction, or in accordance of ASME, or repairs or alterations done in accordance with the NBIC, or the National Board Inspection Code. So that is what these are. So this is not going to affect any of our boiler owner operators or anything like that. This is only going to be affecting people that request that joint review, or another type of special inspection would be a non-standard boiler, one that is, say it's built in France and it doesn't bear the ASME code of construction certification mark. and the owner is requesting to be able to use that boiler instead of one that was fabricated in accordance with ASME. That takes a comprehensive evaluation of that boiler and the codes that it was built to verify that they are in accordance with, or at least as stringent as those required by ASME. So that's not that increase in fee is not going to affect anybody, any owner or operators. It will only affect those requesting a special inspection.
Okay, a lot of these sort of grammar changes and that I'm not really getting into that. It's just cleaning up the language. Believe me, I'm not going to hide anything from you. I'm just going to continue covering the real actual substantive changes here. And the other one in the fee category here in the fee section is that drop fee, and that's just added in there. That's the one-time drop fee, basically penalty for dropping an overdue boiler, and so that's $3,000. And again, not mandatory. Just get the inspection done. You don't have to worry about it. And that, of course, that's only going to apply to the AIA, not the owner. The owner is responsible for late inspection fees, certainly, but not the drop fee. And the blowdown section, we had just adopted some amendments to that, and there was some additional changes, but also there was some confusion about effective date. So we've fixed up the technical requirements here, which if you have questions about that, Rob can certainly explain that. But then we also clarified the effective date, that it applies to boilers that are installed or reinstalled after June 1st. So, you don't need to scramble to retroactively go retrofit equipment. If it's installed or reinstalled after June 1st. And if you have any, questions about these citations and technical requirements for the blowdown, like I said, Rob can go over that.
Honestly, Laura, I'd like to give a quick update on this.
Okay.
So, guys, the change on this one is the way it was written for blowdown piping going between the boiler and the blowdown tank. It implied that all of the piping going from the boiler to the blowdown tank had to be built in accordance with B31 or had to be built in accordance with B31.1 or power piping. That was not the original intent. The original intent was for the B31 piping to stop at the second valve coming off of the boiler, or the first valve coming off of the boiler if it is a single installation, the second valve for double block and bleed if it comes down off of a boiler, two boilers installed together. So what we did is we said, in here, we went straight to the code and referenced PG 58.2, which PG 58.2 in ASME section 1 is the paragraph that sends you to B31.1 power piping. And we're just using what the code says as the jurisdictional limits instead of what it implied of going all the way, the piping going all the way to the blowdown tank. The second part of this is we inadvertently left out ASME section 8 division 1 when building the blowdown separator. We said it could be, or I'm sorry, we put in that it could be fabricated in accordance with ASME section 8 division 1, but we left out ASME section 1. So when we talk about building to ASME, any vessel can be built to the codes as long as you follow the criteria of that. I actually had one of our companies that builds boilers here in Texas and says, why can't I build a blowdown separator out of section 1? And I said, well, you can. And he said, well, but the rules don't say that. So this is an update allowing them to build the blowdown separator in accordance with ASME section 1, rules for construction of power boilers, or ASME section 8, division 1, division 2, or division 3, which is unfired pressure vessels. So that's just a kind of a quick explanation of what we did with this section.
Brian Malin. Rob, I was looking at, we still have in 65.607, power boilers, excluding unfired burst steam generators. There's a section there for blowdowns still in the rules, and it's section number 6. It is recommended that blowdown tanks be designed and constructed and installed in accordance with National Board recommended rules for power boiler, which is recommended, not a must. I recommend that we have that section struck from, gotta scroll up, sorry. 65.606.
Laura, you're sharing. Can you pull up the current rules for 65.606?
Okay.
And it's under the blowdown section. It's the last line of the blowdown section. Number 6.
Brian, was that the only place that it talked about blowdown?
No, it's got.
Are you sure if that's in the other sections for power boilers and unfired boilers and process steam generators?
Correct. So, like I said, all the other ones have been removed. This blowdown section is still in there for section 1 boilers, which is everything is fine up until number 6.
Okay.
They contradict each other, and I don't want to have any.
Hold on a second. I gotta check. I gotta look at something.
No problem.
606 was atmospheric vents.
Yeah.
Hold on. Atmospheric gas vents.
I think.
Hold on. No, hold on. Scroll back up, please. Scroll back to 606, the very beginning of 606.
Okay.
607. Sorry, 65.607. Sorry.
Oh, 607. Okay.
No,
You scared me because 606 has nothing to do with blowdowns.
Right.
That has to do extensions, boilers that get extensions.
Yeah, you said 607 to start.
So scroll to the blowdown section, and then number 6 on the blowdown section.
Brian, you have saved us a lot of work by bringing this up. I did not even catch that.
I sent it to you in an email a long time ago, but I'm sure it was while you were out of
from my back surgery.
For your back surgery, and I just figured it maybe got glossed over. It happens. We all get that way. But I just wondered. I was like, oh, we didn't bring it up. Yep. I remember seeing that, and I had many installers ask me, is it must or shall? 2 different languages mean 2 different things.
Did you say it was 65.607.6?
Yeah, but it's G of 6, small G.
G.
Yeah.
Okay. Very, very bottom. It's right before you literally switch over.
So there's G. So it's going to be number 6 under this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 6 is going to need to be struck because it's recommending the blowdown tank. Blowdown tank be designed and constructed and installed in accordance with National Board recommended rules for blow-off equipment. So that was actually National Board document MB27, which the National Board actually rescinded and then rewrote and put out. And that used to be a book that actually told you how to design a blowdown separator, and it was really over-designed. But the National Board has redone that document, and now it's very basic, and it doesn't give anybody any of the criteria. I agree with Brian's recommendation of scratching 6, but we need to look at items 1 through 5 as well. So can we, well, first, I guess, Laura, the question I ask you is, can the boiler board make a recommendation to scratch these and include that in what goes to the Texas Register?
Well, I think that's it's really not a problem, because if it's a change to make it consistent with what we're proposing up above, then I don't really think that's a problem to just strike the inconsistent language for proposal. I can double check, but if we don't strike it here, it probably is something we could do at adoption because it is to just be consistent, but we can probably get it into the proposal.
Okay. Can you go ahead and scroll down?
Mhm.
Okay, items 1 through 5, that information still needs to be there.
Okay.
So it would only be deleting number 6.
Okay.
So we need to remember that when we go to, if we make a motion to send this to the Texas Registry, it needs to be with the intent of deleting 65607 G6. So
Okay.
for consistency.
Mhm.
So we just need to make a note of that to add that to our rule changes or to our what's going to the Texas Registry. Good catch, Mr. Malin. Thank you so much. That saved us a lot of scrambling to get corrected. Okay, we should be able to go back to the original document now.
Yeah, that's what I'm going back.
So while Laura's bringing that up, does everybody understand what I was talking about? I know multiple of our people here are very familiar with blowdown separators, and our companies representing AIAs, boiler manufacturers and repair companies, are very familiar with that. Alan, I'm not sure how familiar you are with blowdown separators and the piping thereof. Do you have any questions on that?
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar. I've been operating one for
Oh, well, awesome.
almost 50 years. So, but I will say, and it's not exactly the same, but I did have a question come across my desk from one of our association members. For those of you that don't know, I am a dry clean. I'm a small business owner, dry cleaner, end user. And the question that was posed to me, and I sent you an email, but I think it was the same time you were out for your surgery. And I think Brian cleared it up for me, but there was a question about the enforcement of some of these separator rules and how enforceable they actually are. But one of our members was told by a service company that they were potentially going to be red tagged because of their blowdown system not meeting certain standards, and I'll tell you specifically what it was that they were concerned about. The blowdown separator, water temp from the blowdown separator cannot exceed 140 degrees Fahrenheit, as well as not more than 5 psi. But these are recommended from our interpretation. These are the recommended values. I don't know how enforceable from an inspection standpoint that would be on a regular basis. So I told the member that this is just a misinterpretation by the service company. Most likely, they're not going to red tag you for something like that.
No, sir, they won't. They will not red tag you for that.
Other than that, no. I mean, it makes sense to me, and I'm on board with all of this stuff.
Okay.
It needs to be consistent.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Laura, go ahead and move on. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any questions from the committee on that.
Okay, so so far we don't have any changes except deleting that 65607 G6. We're on the last change that's in the proposal here, and this is really more of adding the recommended standards here for the pressure relief devices. So this is referring to the NBIC standards on this, and so that's just, that whole section is new.
So what this is there has never been any requirements for testing of safety relief valves other than when the boiler gets inspected by the inspector. So basically all this is doing is giving guidance to the or it's mandating that safety relief valves are tested in accordance with the MBIC. Now, this test can be done by the operator and should be done by the by the operator, because the operator will, that way they know that that safety valve works and it is not stuck or seized up, or when they test it, it doesn't reseat, blocking all the water and making sure that it operates as it is. As many of you guys know, a safety relief valve is the very last line of defense from keeping a boiler from going over pressure and blowing up and taking out buildings and going off like a bomb. So we added this in just to make sure that these safety valves are being tested. Some of the boilers that are inspected by the agency and by the AIAs, they'll actually go 3 years before they're even looked at again by an inspector. So by going down this road and saying that we're going to follow the National Board Inspection Code, which is the national code for how often safety valves should be tested, all we're doing is kind of making sure that those safety relief valves are working. And it doesn't cause any extra cost to the owner. It's something that they can do themselves with a little bit of education, which our staff, and I'm sure the authorized inspector for the AIAs, when they go out to do their inspections, they can explain this stuff to the owner and say, okay, I want you to test this valve for me by pulling this little lever up and then letting it go. And then we just check to see if the water stopped, or make sure that it actually popped and relieved water out of the system. And this is a test that you can do yourself.
Okay, if anybody wants to look at any of the rules again, or review any of this, or discuss any of this, as I said, this is what we're going to propose if the governor's office approves. Your motion for recommending proposal, I would recommend you just include in that motion that you recommend proposing, subject to any non-substantive changes that don't need board approval, that the governor's office may suggest, and also with deleting that one section, which I feel like we'll be able to do. If we can't, and you see it there in the proposal, we will work on that for removing that at adoption. But I think we're going to be good to go on removing that in the proposed rules. So the recommendation to publish and propose these would be subject to the tweaks from the governor's office, if any, and the removal of that section that we looked at. But otherwise, if you have any other questions and you want to discuss any of this, now's the time.
So does any of the board members have any questions about any of the rules being proposed?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Quisenberry.
Yes, sir, Mr. Quisenberry.
I was considering our blowdown separator language there being enforced after June 1st, but what if there's an existing facility that does not have one at all? I don't think we've addressed that.
Actually, it is. So, Laura, if you go to the last paragraph of the blowdown separator section. So installation of equipment to achieve compliance with this section is required to be completed on all boilers installed or reinstalled on or after June 1, 2025. So we actually, when this was first written, what it actually read was installed or modification of equipment to achieve compliance with this section required to be completed no later than June 1 of 2025. That is what the original words said. And immediately we had some inspectors take this to mean that if a boiler was installed prior to June 25 or June 1, 2025, they had to retrofit that boiler. And that is not the case. We cannot make a rule that goes backwards in time and makes people retrofit their existing equipment to bring it into compliance. So that's why we deleted the word or modification, just said installation of equipment to achieve compliance with this section is required on to be completed on boilers installed or reinstalled on or after June 1, 2025. And to me, that gets rid of all of the confusion. So you do not have to retrofit a power boiler that was installed prior to June 1, 2025. If you install a boiler or reinstall a boiler after June 1, 2025, you are required to bring it in compliance with this section. Does that make sense, Mr. Quisenberry?
Yes, sir. It just seems like an omission to me that if that piece of safety equipment is completely missing, that it's okay.
It is. We can't make them go back and put that piece of equipment in if it wasn't required. We can't make a boiler installed when it was not a requirement to be retrofitted after we made it a requirement.
Yeah, thank you.
So I personally wish we could go in and make all power boilers get blowdown separators, but it's just you can't make someone go back and retrofit. It would be like me telling a building owner that they have to, that was built in 1972, the 1970 IBC or International Building Code in 2020 to update that entire building to the 2020 IBC. It would be like the same thing. It's you can't go in and make them change what it was actually the code that was enforced when it was installed and make them change it to something that was changed at a later date after it was already installed. Is that a correct way to describe it, Laura?
But yeah, I think there's a possibility that if the equipment wasn't installed when the boiler was installed, that may have been in violation at that time, and maybe that's where the confusion is, because I believe the blowdown equipment is something that you need to have in order to comply with the 140 degree
the plumbing
requirement
code.
in the plumbing code, you know, so but yeah, our rules are not, we're not going to make people go back and retrofit and put in equipment that actually should have been put in at that time. I think that may be an obligation on the insurance companies to say, you know, we're not going to insure you unless you bring it up to the way it should have been installed. But our rules are not going to impose that typically on anyone to go back and retrofit, even if it was installed in violation of a building code or a standard that was applicable.
Thank you, Rob. My concern is that this omission is like, okay, we recognize there's a hazard, a potential hazard in this from a safety standpoint, but as long as you were legal then, or you know it was acceptable then, we're just going to continue to ignore that hazard. So that's, you know, kind of like if it was a fire hazard, would the fire marshal make you clean the stuff up, or you know, address a safety issue?
Well, so
Rob,
let me give it.
This is
Go ahead.
Brian. The city of Houston has gone around to almost all boilers that are in the city and made them install blowdowns, because as they've removed concrete and steel pipe and replaced it with plastic, it's destroying the plastic piping in the ground. And so almost every city is adopting these rules and going place by place requiring them to do it. The only places I find that blowdown separators are not being installed are in the rural communities where it runs into a pond somewhere that has nothing to do with the sanitary sewer system. It's the only places I find them not still being installed. I do a lot of dry cleaners. Almost every dry cleaner has one. Almost every facility in the Houston area has one. I very rarely find them where they don't have them. And if they do, like I said, they run to their own kind of a non-sanitary sewer system. Like if they have a field that has a pond in it where all the runoff collects from the whole facility.
Understood. And I completely agree that it's something that should be done. But I'm going to go down the road of, we have Texas boiler law because of a boiler explosion in 1937, in March of 1937. So that's why we actually have boiler law. But when that law was written, we did not, and I'm going to go a step farther. When that law was written, it required that all power boilers be built in accordance with ASME. Okay. But any boiler that was installed prior to 1937, it didn't have to be replaced with one that was built in accordance with ASME. Okay. We cannot make someone retrofit their equipment to come into compliance with a rule that goes into effect if that equipment was installed prior to. Another example is like the fire department, they regulate NFP 85. NFP 85 is fuel and gas code. And that's where it goes in and starts talking about the
vents, shutdowns, pressure, pressure, under pressure.
Well, it goes in and it starts talking about bleeding gas valves. It talks about flue piping. It talks about carbon monoxide. If you actually go into the IBC now, buildings are required to have carbon monoxide detectors. So apartment complex have to have a carbon monoxide detector in every single apartment room or apartment in a building complex. That's part of NFP 85. Well, if the building was built before that NFP 85 requirement came about, the fire department doesn't make the company go back and reinstall and update all that stuff until they retrofit their building. Once they do a remodel to the building, now they have to bring the building into compliance with all of the new criteria. We do the same thing. If that boiler, it gets uninstalled, when it gets reinstalled, it has to come into compliance with all the criteria that is required at the time the boiler was installed. I can't go in and make someone retrofit their equipment to a rule that did not exist when that rule was first installed. And that's in essence what we'd be doing, is by making these companies go in and put a blowdown separator in after the boiler was installed. We're actually making them retrofit the equipment. And that's just something we can't do. Any other questions? So at this point, I think we need to start looking at a motion. Does anybody have a motion that they would like to make? Or would the board like us to help them out with the words for making a motion to make sure we encompass everything that we need?
This is Alan Kripe. I think that's a good idea to make sure we don't miss anything in this particular motion.
Okay. Laura, can you type up a motion and put it on the screen to encompass what we are needing? My thoughts is we are making a motion to send the proposed rules to the Texas Register for public comment, and additionally to delete in this rule package rule paragraph 65.607 GB. That's I'm sorry, G6.
Okay, Rob, I've sent it to you and Alex to see if you're good with it before using that language.
Did you email it?
It's in Teams.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Quisenberry, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes, sir. I believe we can. Alex, how do you want to record a 5-minute break? Because we'll need to take we'll need to do a roll call when we come back. Because
Yes,
we're fixing to go into a vote.
That's correct. If you'd like, we can do that 5-minute break, and I'll record that when you call off the break and then when you call it back.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give us 10 minutes. So we will reconvene at 11. Well, let's just make it 11:35 is when we'll reconvene. So we'll go ahead and break for about 13 minutes. Give everybody a little bit of chance to stretch their legs and reconvene at 11:35. It is 11:35. I am calling the Buller Board meeting back to order. Alex, I would ask you do a roll call of the board members so we can confirm we still have a quorum, please.
Okay, thank you. And just a reminder, if you have your camera off, please turn it back on. For those members of the board. Okay. Palmer Dent,
Present.
George Crawford,
Present.
Alan Kripe,
Here.
Kyle Stell,
Present.
Bill Quisenberry,
Present.
Brian Mullen,
Present.
okay, and Presiding Officer Rob Trout.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Trout, we are back to quorum.
Thank you very much. So, Laura, can you share your screen? What I'm gonna ask the board to do is I would like to ask the board to make a motion. We have documented what we think the motion could be or should be. So I will open up the floor for any motions.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Quisenberry. I move to approve the rules for publication for the public comment period, subject to any changes recommended by the governor's office that don't require board approval, and the amendment of the draft rule to propose removal of section 65607 G6.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Kyle Stell, I second the motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Alan Kripe. So our attorney wrote this. I just wanted to clarify, subject to any changes recommended by the governor's office that don't require board approval, that's implied non-substantive changes, correct?
Laura, would you answer that? I don't know if you're speaking. I can't hear you. Are you muted? Yeah, you're muted, Laura.
Okay, sorry about that. I was trying to get unmuted. Yeah, that's exactly right. In this case, like I was explaining before, we don't want to delay the rules. If there is a significant substantive change that needs board approval, we'd either have to go ahead and put it in there or get the board to meet to approve it. And because we don't know if they're even going to have any changes or what the change might be, it's hard to predict if it's going to be a substantive change that the board needs to approve. And if it's a technical change, Rob may need to chime in on that and whether it's something that really does need to have board approval. So we kind of have to do it on faith that whatever comes back, that we can look at it and make that decision and bring it to you if we feel like we need to. And like I was explaining before, if they do come back with some sort of change and we go ahead and put it in the proposal and publish it, and you're like, you don't agree with it, you can always make a comment on that. And then when we go to, finish the rules for recommending adoption, we can fix it at that point. So there is another opportunity to fix it, even if we feel like it's not a substantive change, but you still don't like it. So I would recommend, making this motion the way that's written. We're not trying to hide anything. We don't know the governor's office may send us. Most of the time, they really don't have comments. And so we don't really expect one. If we get it, we can use our judgment to bring it to you if we feel like it really does need to have board approval. And if it doesn't, to go ahead and propose it, and then you still get another chance to go ahead and submit a comment, and we can look at it for adoption. So it wouldn't be the end of the world if if it was something that you thought, oh, we really should have seen that again. We'd still have a chance to handle that. If that's enough assurance for you, because it's always going to be a judgment call depending on what they recommend, and so and I can't predict that.
So I would also add, just for the board's knowledge, I've been with the boiler program for almost 20 years now. I've been the chief for almost 15 years. And in all my years with TDLR and interactions with this board, I've only seen one time that the governor's office come back and recommended changes, and it was just some grammar issues that they wish to see. That's the only thing I've ever seen come back from the governor's office. Generally, as a rule, they try to stick to the subject matter expert, which is y'all. So you guys know what is going on with boilers, and we try to keep with the subject matter experts on any substantive changes, which again is y'all.
Thank you. I assumed that probably was the case, but we never talked about that. So what you just said verified what I was suspected. Yeah, far be it for me to want to slow down the efficient wheels of government as they are already. So I'm going to do my part. Thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you, Alan. Any other discussions? Hearing none, Alex, I'm going to ask you to do a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Palmer Dent,
Aye.
George Crawford,
Aye.
Alan Kripe,
Aye.
Kyle Stell,
Aye.
Bill Quisenberry,
Aye.
Brian Mullen,
Nay.
and presiding officer Rob.
I don't get a vote.
That's correct.
I just have the oversight of the meeting. I just conduct the meeting.
Understood. All right, the motion has passed, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item G on our list, which is recommendations for agenda items for the next morning, for the next board meeting. Right off the bat, I will tell you the next board meeting should include the public comments. Basically, it's going to be a review and answer public comments made by the industry from the Texas Register, and possibly move the rule package to the commission for adoption after we answer those public comments. Is there anything else that the board members feel like this should be a discussion at the next board meeting? Anything that you think we need to add? Okay, I think that'll cover that. The next item is item H, discussion of a time, date, and location for the next board meeting. Actually, in this, we don't have to set a date right now. I'm going to be asking Alex, Mr. Ortiz, to query the board for a date and time that would work best for everybody, all those involved, after we get the Texas Register comment period closes, which is after 30 days from the date it's actually submitted to them, and it's out for public comment. So Alex, you're going to be submitting a query to the board members for that. Yes?
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
correct.
That brings us to item I, which is adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I don't think we need a vote for that.
Okay, I'm good with it either way. It's Robert's Rules of Order. Some of them requiring a motion to adjourn, some don't. If we're all good with no motion to adjourn, we are adjourned.